and I suppose one of the things that we really need to take cognizance of is the fact that Africa is going to take, a lot of the attention and limelight away from other emerging markets, because we are looking at very high growth coming through for 2012. Let's look at some of the regions that are going to really outperform. We're expecting even Libya to do really well this year. Sierra Leone also coming in at second place. Charles, give us an indication of some of the regions that you really focus on, that you think that we should be, of course, bringing attention to because of this high growth that we're expecting.
I think the first thing which struck me was that you've got, out of the fastest 25 economies in the world in 2012 and 2013 actually, Africa's got the most candidates in there. 12 countries growing at the fastest in the world. And that's a story that's now been going on for a decade or more. Even now, there's still a reluctance by some investors to recognize just how good this story is. The growth rates that have been so impressive, yes, you mentioned a couple there. Libya bouncing back from the civil war last year. Sierra Leone, there's new iron ore productions coming on stream. As Africa's able to sell its resources to the rest of the world, some of the countries like Sierra Leone, for the first time, being able to do this in a significant way. That economy is going to grow by, the IMF thinks, 36% this year, which is just a phenomenal figure.
So,
but you've also...
Charles, if I could just touch on Nigeria, it's going to come in second to China, because it's looking at, we're expecting 7.1% growth, but that's if it was included in the MSCI emerging market universe. But aren't we also looking at economy size and, per capita GDP? Surely that also plays a fundamental role when you're looking at these growth rates, because a lot of them are off a very low base.
They are from a low base. I think what's worth remembering is that in the 1980s, Africa also had a low base for many, many countries. And you didn't get growth rates like this. In the 1990s, in terms of the fastest growing economies, there was 3 in Africa, in sub-Sahara, and 3 only in the 1980s. We're now talking about 12. And this is a huge improvement, and it's across the board. And it wasn't happening before. I think there's a combination of reasons for this. Better policy. You're seeing a good reform-minded government in Nigeria. You're seeing governments like the Rwandan government recognizing what the World Bank recommends in terms of making it easier to do business, and Rwanda becoming the top reformer in 2010. It's even spreading to countries like Ethiopia, 87 million people in that country. And it's growing at 7.5%. These are very impressive growth rates across the board.
Charles, what also excites me, just some of these numbers that you've also put in your reports. You're looking at Africa, the fastest growing economies, 2012 and 2013, 12 countries in the top 25 compared to 11 for Asia and just 2 for Latin America. These are very exciting numbers, but we've seen Africa growing before at rapid levels. Look at what happened in the 1970s, and then suddenly we just falter. Are we going to falter again, Charles?
There is a part of what's happened, and certainly a helpful part, has been the rise in commodity prices. That was a story in the 70s. That's been a story for the last 10 years as well. What has been happening with those commodity prices is important. What was going on in the 1970s, I think a lot of that money was wasted. Some of that money was stolen. White elephant projects, as they call them, were being built. They weren't economical or sensible. What seems to be happening now is that governments are giving the private sector more room to grow, to expand. You've got stories like Dangote Cement, huge expansion across Africa. Money's getting reinvested in Africa, where perhaps 25, 30 years ago, some of it was fleeing the continent. Now it's getting reinvested in the continent. I think that's quite an important change.